If I were to ask you what the best Pokemon game is, what would your answer be? Some of you would probably say Heart Gold, Soul Silver, some of you would probably say Emerald, a lot of you would probably say Red and Blue, and I'd imagine almost none of you would say Scarlet and Violet.
Oh my god.
But if you were to ask me what I think the best Pokemon game is, I'd have to say it's Pokemon Soul Silver. And then if you ask me to pick a second spot, I'd say it's Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. And no, it's not just because Lugia is the legendary in both games. Although Lugia is my favorite Pokemon, so I'm a little biased here. Pokemon XD came out on the GameCube. I know, right around the same time the dinosaurs went extinct. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you might not have, and chances are even fewer of you have actually played it. I have probably played this game from start to finish like 6 or 7 times. I'm not even saying that for the meme, I have actually played it that many times. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna spend the next however long telling you why I think Pokemon XD is maybe the most criminally underrated Pokemon game, and in my opinion, a top tier game in the franchise. With XD coming to the Switch 2 later this month, it felt like an appropriate time to make this video. So let's start by setting the stage a little bit. Pokemon XD is actually a sequel to Pokemon Colosseum. I really like both of these games, but I think that Pokemon XD is just generally a more enjoyable experience that most people will have a better time with. Colosseum offers a great challenge, and it's really difficult actually. Maybe we'll make a whole nother video on Colosseum. But XD is just the more refined version in my opinion, and not too dissimilar to how Emerald is like the better version of Ruby and Sapphire. And I say it's a sequel, but it's really just set in the same region. You can play one before or after the other and be completely fine. I played Pokemon XD way before I played Colosseum, and everything still made sense to me. Both Pokemon XD and Colosseum take place in the Ore region, which, to my knowledge, doesn't appear anywhere else. I'm pretty sure it only appears or is even mentioned in these two games. I could be wrong. If I find another mention of the Ore region anywhere else, I'll go ahead and throw it on screen. It's possible that it's mentioned in like the description of a TCG card somewhere. That sounds kind of familiar, but I'll throw it up in editing, but I'm pretty sure it's never mentioned anywhere else. The Ore region is quite barren, not in the gameplay sense, but rather a stylistic one. It's very dry and kind of just a wasteland in a lot of areas, save for like 2 or 3 spots in the whole game that have a lot of water. It's a very deserty region, and the vibe of these games is generally just a bit more mature than the main series games. It's nothing crazy, like people aren't getting shot or anything, but the main character is a little bit older, and some of the themes and areas are just a bit more mature than you might be used to in a modern Pokemon game, which I find very refreshing. I think it's very cool. There's actually a whole city called Pyrite Town that's just populated by like gang members and not great people. I don't even think there's a Pokemon Center there now that I'm thinking about it. It's a rough town. Again, nothing over the top, just a little more grungy, a little more mature, you know? There's actually a whole plot line where this radio station is kidnapped and held hostage by the evil Team Cypher, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, not really stuff you see in modern Pokemon games. Team Star could never. There's also some really wacky areas you visit that just ooze character, you know? Like, I just don't think you would see Chopin's Crazy Manor or a Robot Kyogre or whatever this place is in the modern games, you know? Oh yeah, there's also very few wild Pokemon. The main way you get Pokemon in this game is through the signature gimmick and mechanic of the game, Shadow Pokemon. So let's talk about them. Shadow Pokemon are used by other trainers, usually the evil team, in battle, and you can actually use this machine on your arm to catch them. Like from the other trainer in battle, you catch their Pokemon. In fact, you should, because these Mons are low-key being abused. Shadow Pokemon are interesting. So when you first catch them, they only have a couple of these weird shadow type moves. These moves are super effective against literally everything, except for maybe other Shadow Pokemon. I'm not actually sure about that. But there are some drawbacks that come with using Shadow Pokemon. Most notably is the fact that they don't get XP and can go into reverse mode, which, depending on if you're playing Colosseum or XD, can range from slightly annoying to completely debilitating if you're playing Colosseum, which again, I might make a whole video talking about Colosseum because that game is rough. So you want to purify your Shadow Pokemon, which can be done passively over time through a machine, or after you've used them in battle enough, you can just take them to the Relic Forest and have Celebi do it for you. If you didn't know and haven't already guessed it somehow, yes, this Lugia is a Shadow Lugia. This might be my favorite Pokemon design ever. Like, Game Freak, Please bring this back, this shit is so cool. This Lugia is the only Shadow Pokemon that actually looks different, but across the two games, it's far from the only Shadow legendary that you'll find. The whole idea of Shadow Pokemon being your main way of getting Pokemon in these games might seem a bit limiting to most, and there are a lot of them, but given that this is a Gen 3 game, it is kind of limiting, and I actually like that. I like having to make do with what I get and having to put together this weird team of Pokemon that I might not have normally used, and I'm now using them because that's what the game decided to give me. It adds to the challenge a little bit. Not to mention, you can and almost certainly will fail some Shadow Pokemon, which only adds to the sense of urgency when you battle them. Although, if you do fail one, you will have ways to try and catch them again later, so don't worry too much about it. I will say though, since it's a Gen 3 game, like I mentioned earlier, I have found when playing through XD that sometimes you'll be handed a Shadow Pokemon like Mischievous, for example, which at first you're like, oh, that's cool, I can't wait to have Mismagius, and then you realize Mismagius doesn't exist yet, so you can't actually evolve it. It's just kind of an awkward spot that quite a few Pokemon fall into. I don't know though, man. It's kind of fun when your opponent throws out a Pokemon, you're like, please let that be a Shadow Pokemon, and then it is, and you get to catch it. Like, you don't get that in the modern games very much. Well, it's fun finding Shadow Pokemon until you inevitably fail one, which, I mean, you remembered to save your game before this, right? Right? Now, there are some wild Pokemon in the game, and some pretty solid ones like Aron, Trapinch, and Wooper. I also just forgot to mention that your starter Pokemon is an Eevee. Yeah, and this was way before the Let's Go games. You're given the opportunity to evolve this Eevee pretty early on in the game into whichever evolution you want, with the exception of the 3 that didn't exist yet. I'm currently running Flareon, the best evolution. The selection of Pokemon in this game and how you obtain them is just really interesting. We all have our favorites that we tend to gravitate towards when we play these games, but XD kind of demands that you try something new, try some new Pokemon that you would not have maybe used before, and I think that's really cool. But the Pokemon aren't the only ones here that are pretty cool. The characters and, oh my god, the music? Top tier. Top tier. All the characters in this game are just so wacky in ways that modern Pokemon doesn't really tend to tap into. You have Jovi, your kind of annoying but kind of endearing little sister that keeps getting herself into trouble. This Johnny Bravo looking guy who's just kind of an asshole. The crazy scientist Chopin and his crazy house. Egan and his wife in a Gate Village who definitely aren't just old Ash and Misty. Not to mention the standout villain characters like Evil Greevil and his evil henchman. There's just a lot of very memorable... Okay, wait, I feel like I'm missing one. Am I missing one? Okay. Is Mirror Bee not one of the best designed and executed characters in Pokemon, like, ever? His fit? Fire. His hair? Fire. His team? Well, water, and it's kind of annoying as shit, but his theme? Fire. I didn't even realize how much I like this guy until I got older. He is just so much fun, man. Even tracks like the Team Cypher admin battle music, or the music that plays on the evil island that you go to. They just evoke such an epic feeling. Like, it really feels like you, this kid with way too much responsibility, are thwarting the plans of this evil organization, and everyone around you is just doing everything they can to help you succeed. It's self-contained, but it also has the stakes needed for a fun adventure. Everything I've talked about so far comes together to make a really unique Pokemon game that I think is very hard to match. Now, you may be wondering how or why Game Freak decided to make a game like this, and that's because they didn't. This game was made by Genius Sonority, and so was Coliseum. I think they made a few other console Pokemon games at the time as well. And no shade towards Game Freak, but you can kind of tell. Sure, the graphics are dated, but for a game that came out in 2005, holy shit. The animation work is really good, like really good. Silly and blocky at times, but good. And if you ask me, this is better than a lot of the animation work Game Freak has produced in the last 10 years. There are even some more little quality of life things that I noticed while making this video that I never really thought about before, and now I kind of wish Game Freak would adopt. For example, there's no voice acting in this game, but whenever characters are talking, there's this subtle beeping as the text is appearing on screen. It's a really small touch, but in my opinion, it is far better than the dead silence that is occasionally interrupted by the A button sound in pretty much every other Pokemon game. It'd be nice too if in Winds and Waves, Game Freak at least took the Zelda approach where characters make little noises as you're talking to them. They don't even need to go the full voice acting route, just something, man, but this is better than nothing. I also feel like this game doesn't cut to black as much as some of the modern games do, you know? Like, for example, in Pokemon Legends ZA, when a character does something as simple as sitting down, the screen will often fade to black and then fade back with them in the chair because Game Freak didn't want to animate that shit, I don't know. Yeah, XD does that too sometimes, but it feels like it does it a lot less. Like, they're a lot less afraid to just show the characters moving in action. And when they do fade to black, it's at least accompanied by some noises to help you get what's going on, like footsteps or punching or I don't know. There are also shiny Pokemon in this game, but they're kinda weird and I honestly wouldn't mind making a whole video on them. So the Shadow Pokemon are shiny locked, but the Gift and Wild Pokemon aren't. So you can actually shiny hunt in this game, albeit very slowly. It's tough. And for whatever reason, a lot of the shinies in this game just look completely different to the normal shinies we're all used to. Like completely different. I don't really know why this is, since some of them look spot on, and then others literally couldn't be more different, but it's a neat little quirk present only in these games. So yeah, I love this game, if you couldn't tell, and I really wish it got more recognition. Maybe XD coming to the Switch will get more people to play it, and I really hope it does, because this shit is underrated. Like, it really is. It's a great game. I'm really hoping one day we'll revisit the Ore region or Shadow Pokemon in general, but that seems unlikely at this point. Yeah, Pokemon Go kinda did it, but they couldn't even give Shadow Lugia justice. Like, does that really count? I don't think that counts. Fun fact, there is actually a Shadow Lugia jumbo card in the TCG. There's not a regular sized one, there's only a jumbo version. It's quite rare and I do not have it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like or a comment. It really helps to get this content in front of more people and I'd love to keep making more videos like this. I hope you're having a great day, night, or whatever it is. I'm gonna try and find an affordable copy of that Lugia card. Until next time.